Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Eternal News video. Today I want to finally catch up on the latest massive balance changes. We had a big patch and that just went live yesterday, and I finally got time to talk to you about it and give you my thoughts. But you know the drill. Before we do, hit the subscribe button down below for future content, and now let me introduce you briefly to today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, one of the leading virtual private network providers out there. A virtual private network keeps your data secure and yourself anonymous while using the internet. NordVPN comes with super fast servers, allows you to unlock your favorite entertainment websites like Netflix. They provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. They also have an included cybersecurity suite, which acts as an ad blocker to boot. They don't lock any of your data, provide a 24/7 customer support, and you can use it on up to 6 simultaneous connections, so one account covers most or all of your electronic devices. And most importantly, they don't have any bandwidth limit, so you can use it non-stop without it getting throttled, which is particularly important for heavy users like us. It also won multiple awards and comes highly recommended by top technology experts. So if you're still surfing online without a VPN, now is the time to change that. Get NordVPN now 70% off for a 3-year plan, including 1 month extra for free using the code ManuS or the personalized link in the description down below. And now on to today's content. Alright, now it's time to talk about the balance update. So first off, we have a whole bunch of nerfs. There's 12 nerfs and 12 buffs. The first nerf is Rod of Stranger. That has already been nerfed, but not enough, and I totally agree with this. The card was very pushed. Basically a Heart of the Vault power level card that was pre-nerfed Heart of the Vault effectively and was mono-faction, therefore it was showing up in so many decks and it was so easy to play that it was super format defining and warping, and it's good that they changed it. Now, instead of drawing 2 cards on attack, you draw 1 card, which is still very good. Like, that's still a 6-cost 6/6 that ramps you for free, so it generates card advantage the turn you play it. And then when it attacks, it draws you another card and also has the utility of messing with the opponent's void in matchups where that matters. So still a pretty strong card, but not like just not high for everything, and after decks will be like various time decks built around Rod of Stranger and trying to abuse it, cheat it out on 5. Or go off with killer. That's the other thing, the fact that you get ready power the turn you play it in formats where we have Instinct or Twilight Hunt makes it draw the cards immediately, which is a particularly big problem because there aren't that many cards that stop that in a lot of colors, especially in Expedition. And next we have Rod Stranger. That's a nerf that I'm less happy with. I didn't feel like the card was that dominant format warping, and it was already like reasonably balanced the last time as 4/3. 4/3 for 5 drop means it dies pretty easily, can't participate in combat that well, especially on defense, without dying. Gives the opponent time to set it up. Also on offense, it's much more limited in how much card advantage it generates and stuff. And so yeah, overall I felt the card was fine. Now at 4/2 with a card like Blazing Salvo in both metagames and being like really good and omnipresent, Rod Stranger is basically now a horrible card, which is a bit unfortunate. Not the biggest fan of that change. Like, I probably would have rather seen it be a 3 than a 4/2. Like 2 health is just devastating on a 5 drop, which is not very playable anymore. Next we have a bunch of kind of weird nerfs to me. So first off, Crooked Alley Guide now is 3/2. I guess that is okay-ish, but really not a big fan of that change. Also, I feel like Stone Scar decks were not actually that good, and I just don't get why they got nerfed so much. Nimble Conscript is now horrible as a 3/3 Reckless. The 4 health is what that terrible. And now both of these cards are really bad and basically unplayable, I think. And I feel like that wasn't necessary at all. The Stone Scar decks were solid and they were played quite a bunch, but partially because the format was settling and it didn't even like do well in the tournament or anything. So yeah, I I don't know, I guess maybe it was more of a problem at levels of play that I am not experiencing. My only guess, because at the level that I'm playing my games at, the deck was a relevant part of the metagame and you faced it a bunch, but wasn't even very good. I was in playing against it and it was just like good against decks that were vulnerable. Early game aggression, which is good. Format needs these decks. So, yeah, I don't know. Now suddenly we have nothing that keeps honest. I really don't like. And yeah, Inspired Prank got unbuffed again, basically, which is fine. Seems like a pretty marginal change overall, honestly. Not sure if it was necessary. To be fair, I was more impressed by Yeti Stone Sky deck. Yeti's was consistently beating any deck that wasn't actively preparing for it, but also not to a point that was a problem, but more to a point it was a essential defining part of the metagame that made you respect it, but once you respected it well, it was very beatable. You could just not like dawdle around and doing whatever and something in the early game is enough to survive. You needed to like actively do things that were good aggression like this. But I mean, it's also not a big change, so Yetis should still roughly. Then we have a couple more changes here. Like somehow they've think that Rakano is a problem in Expedition. I haven't played Expedition since the EU, but from what, like, for example, teammates have played, they didn't even think Rakano was good. It's once again seems like they just nerfing an aggro deck that might be like more problem at levels of play that we are, but higher level stuff they didn't seem to be. Yeah, and Blame now being a 3/2, notable downgrade. It was very good. It's still probably fine, but it's certainly a pretty red nerf. But I guess it's okay. Wasn't aware that the emblems are good and still probably good. Then Shenra Unbreakable now needs a whole attack longer to mastery, which actually makes it a lot harder to master. 8 was kind of slow, and there are a lot of things that punish it for being it. I thought the card was fine. It was solid, like a good one drop that would get out of control if you couldn't deal with it, but it was pretty easy to deal with. Thought it was in a fine place. Apparently did. This is a really weird change. Tinker Overseer, a card that hasn't even seen a whole lot of play over its entire lifespan. Now suddenly got turned into a 2/1. I mean, there are a couple of like weapon synergy Expedition officially right now, but yeah, I guess that makes the card like not remotely a consideration in Throne anymore. Then Acclaimed Artisan's Mastery got put up. It's kind of whatever. Yoda Stranger, pretty solid card. I think now the card is horrendous. It basically dies to everything. Even once you attack once, it still dies to salvo. Horrible. So yeah, I think that card is really bad now. It was solid before. I never thought it was that great. It was one of those cards that is kind of fragile, like being 3 cost. Salvo is. You needed to like survive a whole. Then you started getting like. Sure, the like buff to the nice, and that made up dying to stuff like salvos. But yeah, now the card is just bad. And yeah, so as they say here, like changes help revitalize strategies. Stone Sky Yetis proven to be on efficiency and aggression that after careful consideration rear cards to their original size. With a smaller borderlands scout, shift one bit too ahead of the curve. Other options, fired rank, blah blah blah. Wasn't conscript even like a 3/4 the entire time, so that's like more than in Alley Guide was reversed. And yeah, here the Rakano argument. addressed by Master's Blade being reduced to base 0/0, making it more a tool for dedicated decks with a lot of battle skills. Less good in decks that have some good targets and fine targets otherwise. I guess that's reasonable. The card's pretty powerful, although in terms of problematic, I didn't think of it as problematic, but it's really powerful. Bisma, not sure how I feel about that change. Like, it's still a solid card now, but losing the Entomb kind of takes away the main part of what made the card good. But yeah, they basically feel like that too many unseen exalted mechanics are things that kind of be hard to interact with it. As they say here, like exalt interacting with frustratingly difficult. So they basically wanted to like mitigate the chance that Bisma is really, really hard to deal with. Then he died, gave the Aegis or N2 stats and everything to someone else, making another threat that is. But once again, like unseen well in the last Expedition ECG. Yeah, not sure. But yeah, the Master's Blade nerfs onto the buffs. So pretty happy to see these buffs. I talked about the market changes that I feel like most of the old merchants need a buff to keep basically straight up better smuggler cases, and they delivered, so that's nice. X-Tune Merchant got reverted to his old 3 glory, card, and one of the best stat-wise merchants, since most merchants either have 3 attack or 3 health and not both, so getting like a 3 cost 3/3 overwhelm plus market access is actually pretty good, so there's a lot more strategies again. Even some of the smugglers can be a bit awkward. It's really nice, and this was heavier play merchants. Huge part due to its 3/3 lining up much better. Then Carrington Merchant as a 2/2 deadly doesn't like die for free to a lot of the like, ping 1 effects, which is really nice and now more appealing for defensive decks that don't necessarily need smuggler can now play Carrington Merchant and have a solid body that basically can trade up with like the biggest guy the opponent has. Also a really nice buff that I quite like. Then Yennefer Merchant, they considered making it 3/2 again or 3. Pretty interesting that they went with 3. They went with the 2/3 because the Huru Smuggler is basically already sort of a 3/2 Aegis, so they want to create some more diversity, which is a nice argument. To be fair, a 2/3 Aegis is pretty brutal. Slightly more defensive decks, not as good in offensive decks, but in defensive decks like 3 health, Aegis 3 drop, super annoying. Especially against aggressive decks now, Yennefer Merchant is really good, which is another part of why I don't like these aggressive nerfs. Like, get stuff like Yennefer Merchant and such that is really good against aggression, and there's another buff in here against aggro, plus the nerfs to aggro that is completely going to obliterate aggro again. Especially since we already lost like time aggro to the last changes, so I'm really concerned about the place of aggro. Once again. Next we have Winchester Merchant. Finally not the gimpy 2/2 flyer anymore. 2/3, so it doesn't die. Salvo for free, deals with some smaller flyers in the air, and is now overall a very solidly round unit. That's the whole thing. Like the 2 health on a 3-drop, as I mentioned on various occasions when changes happen, is just like very painful and very, very weak because basically can't interact with anything on the board without dying. And now as a like 3 health unit, they survive some stuff, they block some stuff, so they really have like a meaningful impact like that. They also said they considered giving Aurelian Merchant a 4th health point back. I'm really glad they didn't, because I think that would have been absolutely unnecessary. It's still one of the best like merchants total, including smugglers. Like it's still a premium merchant. Now it's now like something like NF merchant and X merchant are moving closer to it, but are probably still slightly behind. Since gaining the one ramp from Aurelian merchant is worth so much. Like you lose 2 attack points compared to some of these, but you get a whole ramp that is so good, especially for time. Like Aurelian merchant is amazing, and there's off it. Like card was such an outlier for so long. And now all the merchants and smugglers are a lot closer together, and which is nice. I feel like the merchant and smugglers overall are more balanced than ever before across the board. Then we have transpose. Yeah, this was lagging behind. It was awkwardly bad. Not sure if it's gonna be like meaningfully better now, but at least it does relevant stuff. Like now, for example, in a more aggressive deck, it has some appeal. I think the main problem actually is that the damage matters most decks. The Aegis doesn't really matter much in aggressive decks, and aggressive decks have some good merchant options and Blazing Salvo in some cases, or Condemn, which all do like better things. Salvo being removal, or Condemn being more flexible than Transpose. So even a 2 damage Transpose is kind of weird there. And then like non-aggressive decks basically get like an Aegis 2 damage to the end. A lot of the time doesn't do much. Like it can be nice sometimes to put like base Aegis on their part, or like a weapon. Like now it at least breaks some weapons, like sort of become stuff. Expedition this matters a bit more, but the card is still like decidedly weak. Same as like the Justice one. So yeah. Yeti Bolt now activating for 5, so for 9 power you can draw 3 cards, which is super powerful. Like this is a really weird buff out of left field. Nice buff. So yeah, pretty great card. And another buff that is sort of considered against aggro, which is really weird. Like they really got it out for aggro. I think they completely gutting aggro patch. And aggro was only like okay opinion and before the patch to begin with. But they clearly disagree. Like I said, I don't have the full picture, maybe the other levels of play that I am not experiencing problematic or something, but tournament results and like Masters MMR and Remasters was not in my. And then they reverted the nerf on Defiance, which I think is one of the most egregious mistakes in this balance patch, if you ask me. I really liked the nerf to Defiance, and I thought Defiance was way too pushed and way too oppressive, and now they got it aggro, and they bring back this card to make sure that nobody will ever touch anything aggressive anytime soon in game, especially in Throne, but even in like I think Defiance is still an might be remembering, and it dropped out because it at least was in the past. But yeah, anyway, not liking this change at all. Seems kind of a mistake, and there are people that talked to stream yesterday similar and were very baffled. While other things that seem much more powerful and dominant, for example, in the better and in personal testing experience, are completely untouched. Not saying that they need to be nerfed. So I'm still not convinced that the other things were too good nerfs, but nerfs seem to have made more sense for those than a lot of the things we're seeing here. Buffs. Like I mean, this is a buff to Defiance, but it's a nerf to aggro. So yeah, just weird changes all around. Shardbinder now is 3-2 instead of a 3-1. Really like that change. The card is interesting, but 3-1 is really awkward. 3-2 makes it a much like. Then Ali now costs single J instead of double J, and hits units with 5 strengths or less rather than 4 strengths or less. So it's a lot more flexible, more splashable, and it sets itself apart more like Reinforcer, which is nice. Might make the card a bit more of a consideration in certain strategies. How you can actually like silence a lot more meaningful units, something like Titan, for example, stuff like that. While also playing in a decks where also would be hard to support, or obviously in a format like where present. Then Display of Tradition now silences the enemy void and draws a card instead of just silencing it, which is nice because now that mode is one of the it's like the backup mode or go-to mode. You can always just cycle it, get some utility out of it. The other appealing mode then will be Pulse and Killer, and the third mode basically just like the pseudo removal tempo mode. Now the card actually is a lot better. This buff does a lot for the card, because before it didn't have like a good generic something decent, and now it does. Like the card was like awkwardly bad, in my opinion, and now a reason card to consider, especially in Expedition. That's a pretty interesting one. Geminon got buffed from 6 to 5. 5 cost 7/6 with some potential to just go nuts. It's pretty cool, and it's like doesn't die to Annihilate, which is premium cheap removal now that other removal has been vanquished. Yeah, Desecrate, because both of these cards have remained largely on the bench since they got nerfed. And Nahid now is a 6-drop instead of a 7-drop. Also much better because the card was kind of overcasted. Also, it now can go into neat. So not super impactful, both buffs, but both reasonable and like kind of things now lend themselves a bit better to some extent. So yeah, these are the balance changes. Let me know in the comments what you think about my thoughts on these, and of course let me know what you think about these balance changes. Do you share my opinion? Where do you disagree and why? Just give me a different perspective. Like for example, maybe there are people watching this that feel different about some of the things that I criticized because they play at a level where things look different and they had a different experience from my impression. Like help me try and make sense of these changes, because I believe like the guys at Direwolf are smart people and competent people usually, so normally the stuff they do makes some sense, but here a lot, like this is one of the weirdest patches to me in a while, with a lot of things that really don't make sense from my perspective. Yeah, just kind of even counterproductive to an extent, in my opinion. But I only have part of the picture. Let's piece the puzzle together and see how things are elsewhere. Anyway, that's it again for the latest Eternal news. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget, on your way out, hit the subscribe button, leave a like if you enjoy the content, share your thoughts in the comments, share it with your friends, and of course show our sponsor nod. And yeah, that's it again for this time. I'm your host ManuS. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.